You're listening to Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Park, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Woodman Life Insurance, and Joe Fridays.
Yeah, we're here tonight at Joe Fridays. Once again, it's Greer Media time, bringing you the coaches show. We're going to have Busby here with us, and we're going to have Deichler here with us to talk a little football before we have Coach come on. But, guys, it's been fun to watch y'all this year.
Yes, sir.
And just, you know, I was lucky enough to coach y'all growing up.
Yes, sir.
And me and Andrew moved back this year, and it's been fun to watch y'all.
Yes, sir.
And it's been good to watch you young men grow up and turn into good young men out there. But just tell me, Sandoval's been here about 3 years. What has changed the most in the last 3 years that you can tell?
Basically, really, we work harder since he been here. We love each other, and we have that energy and discipline. We more disciplined since he been here because he pushed that a lot more. And all the coaches, we all love each other, and we just created a bond that can't be broken, and we just love each other so much.
JB, you play defense.
Yes, sir.
But then a couple of weeks ago, I look up, and you're running down the sideline on offense. When you're out there standing on the sideline, are you always looking for that opportunity to show that speed off?
Yes, sir. I'm always looking for that opportunity because you never know when your number's going to be called.
It was good. That play was a little trick play, and it was good to see you going down the sideline. I know you play a lot of defense, but
yes,
growing up, I know you've always been one of the faster boys in that group.
Yes, sir.
Is offense more fun to you, or do you like playing defense?
I like playing defense more because I can be more physical, and I get to guard people and, like, shut them down. Like they main receivers, I like guarding people and, like, stop them from catching anything. And defense just more fun. I get to make tackles, celebrate. I get to do a lot of stuff on D.
So you've been on varsity the last 2 years.
Yes, sir.
What's the difference this year, you being on varsity, being a senior, than it was last year playing ball?
Last year, see there, I ain't played football my sophomore year. So I came back my junior year, and it was new. It was new to me. I was a little fresh meat to them. So really last year, we ain't really had that bond like we got this year. Like, we all love each other this year, and we work harder. We got that connection more this year. And last year, everybody, most of the seniors last year, they want to be like me. But us now, we all just know that we all got to work together to achieve our goal that we got. And it just can't be me. We all got to work as a team.
Well, but this group, like I said, from even T-ball, when y'all first were in T-ball together, I was telling Andrew the last couple of years he'd been in Mart, and I was like, look, we're moving back to Mexia. And he's like, Daddy, them guys don't know me. They're not. And I said, Andrew, you played ball with them till they were 12. I said that group was always really close.
Yes, sir.
I said, when you walk back in, it's going to be like you was never gone. And his first 3 weeks, he was like excited about going to work out. He was so excited because he said, you boys, when he walked in, was like, hey, Daddy, they remembered me. They knew me. I was like, well, yeah, they're a little shorter than you now, but hey, y'all were always close. But y'all were close in every sport y'all played.
Yes, sir.
So the one thing that Coach Sandoval, then Coach Maddox was here, then Coach Woolard was here, was they preach one at a time. So are y'all trying to win it all this week, or y'all one at a time?
We 1-0 every week. 1-0 every week. We're not looking into the next week. We trying to go 1-0 each week. We ain't worrying about last week, but we just go get better from last week. Watch film, do what we got to do to get better. But the next week, we trying to go 1-0. We ain't worrying about the next round, none of that. Just trying to go 1-0 every week. Win a day, every day.
Well, that's a good attitude to have. And your partner here, JR, this is JB Busby we've been listening to. We're here at Joe Fridays every Wednesday, and we've had seniors out each week to talk to. We had JB this week. You can listen to our show each Wednesday at 6:30 starting at Joe Fridays. So we just got through talking to JB. His partner, JR's here, and we'll get JR on the mic. JB, we appreciate it. No need in running off here. JR, we been watching you all year long, and you had your first touchdown catch last week.
Yes, sir.
What did it feel like out there on the field to to ring in a catch that was across the goal line?
It was just exciting. Very exciting.
I can tell you that play happened really fast, and I never seen your number. I just could tell by your build and the way you rolled over. I was like, there's nobody but Dykler that caught that ball right there.
Yes, sir.
But what's this year meant to you being a senior, being your last year with your brothers? What's it meant to you so far?
Like every day I have to go hard. I have to go hard for my brothers because our goal is to go 16 weeks and 1-0 every day. And I try to go hard every day in practice so I can get better and make the team better because I don't want it to end.
What's practice been like this week?
Just really hard. Just very tough. Them being tough on us and everything because we know who we're going to have to play, and it's going to be a tough match.
So does everybody seem really focused this week?
Yes, sir.
You know, the deeper you go, the bigger the stadiums get, the nicer the stadiums get. And I sure would love to see y'all playing in the Star next week. But like
yes,
JB just said, it's 1-0, and this
1-0.
is the only game that you're worried about right now.
Yes, sir.
What can you tell by film where you think you might have a little bit of advantage on the field this week, on offense or defense?
That's a tough question. I would say defense because we always try to let them have the ball first. Defense is going to set the tone automatically. But offensive-wise, we get the ball, we're going to set the tone.
Y'all have been doing a lot of two running back offense this year, and them two running backs that y'all have just taken turns going back and forth on who's going to be carrying the ball. And what was so funny is last week they were not going to let Jaden beat them. So finally in the third and fourth quarter, we got our running backs going because they run a 3-4 and they had two linebackers chasing Jaden everywhere he went. So finally in the fourth quarter, we were able to break loose. And you've been part of that line that Wallace and I talk about that in the first quarter it might be a 1 or 2 yard run, maybe 3. And then you get into the second quarter and it goes into a 3 or 4 yard run. And by the time you get to the fourth quarter, you look up and they're breaking off 10, 12, 15-yard runs just nonstop. Is that just y'all issuing your willpower and taking over the game? Or is that just scheme? How does that work for y'all as you get deeper in the game?
It's just like last week, we couldn't get nothing going and everything, but we're still fighting. And we noticed that if we didn't keep on playing, we're going to end up losing the game. So
did you feel them
fighting.
Start getting tired in the fourth quarter last week and y'all were able to put your power or your willpower on them?
Yes, sir. We took them to deep water.
That's what I like to hear. Well, that's going to be the end of our players show. JR, JB, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck on y'all tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll have a couple of y'all's players, partners sitting here with us next week on another round of Black Cat football in 2019.
Yes, sir.
To Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Part, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Woodman Life Insurance, and Joe Fridays.
Mike, test.
To Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Part, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Woodman Life Insurance, and Joe Fridays.
Ooh, yeah, that's hot right there. I got it, yeah. Because I'm going to put it on the table so it'll pick up their voices while they talk.
listening to Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Part, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Woodman Life Insurance, and Joe Fridays.
Hello.
We're back here at Joe Fridays. You're not As we're here at Joe Fridays for a coach's show, we just got through speaking with JB Busby and J.R. Deichler. Now we got Coach Draper and Coach Kirsch. Make sure I say that right. We got one more week here. Which coach wants to go first?
Coach Kirsch, you're up.
Well, Coach, we had Sandoval the first week. We had Woolard the second week. Maddox the second week. And we had Woolard last week. The first question I asked them is, starting out the year, we were picked to be number 7 in district. What do you think has been the biggest change in us coming in and being second now? And now we're in the second round of the playoffs.
Biggest thing I think is us just being us. We're not letting any outside sources kind of affect what we do every day on a daily. And we just kind of, again, we got guys that's blue collar that want to come in and work hard, and DMJs do their job. So, I mean, that's the big thing we stress, and doing our jobs. And, again, like I said, not letting the outside sources kind of affect what we do. And I think that's the biggest thing in this, staying within ourselves and doing our game and playing ourselves. So I think that's the main thing that kind of helped us get the success that we got so far.
Well, another thing that I noticed this year is when we moved back here, when Andrew first started coming up here, is the summer workouts, how intense they were and how many people were showing up. Do you think that's made a lot of difference for y'all this year?
Oh, definitely, yeah, man. Like I said, starting out there, I mean, this was my second year actually in my head, but it was the other coach staff first year there. And that first year, we had some pretty decent numbers for us summer workout-wise, but it wasn't quite where we wanted to get to. But it was just over the past couple of years, like you said, when the numbers have grown so much, man. And that just not only with the older groups, but with the younger kids too, seeing how things are supposed to work out and seeing how things go, so that naturally it trickles down to those guys, and they just kind of fall in place to go along with it. So I mean, the older guys have done a great job by leading, and the younger guys have done a great job by picking up the example.
Well, that's great. Well, you're the offensive line coach, and Wallace and I each week start out, and it's been so funny. The first 6 or 7 games, it seemed like the first quarter, Wiley was breaking on a long 70, 80, 90-yard run, but over the last 4 weeks, you started playing tougher teams. And the first couple of drives in the first quarter, second quarter, you're getting 1 or 2 yard runs, 3 to 4. But then by the end of the game, you're seeing 9 and 10-yard runs, 14 and 15-yard runs. Is that by scheme, or is that just by your offensive line taking control of the game, Coach?
Everything just naturally progressing out and working within itself. I tell the guys, man, like, we can't go out, and get outside our game. We're going to try to chip away. We're going to come off the ball. We're going to fire. We're going to block whistle. And if we do that, then at the end of the day, like I said, we got pretty good backs. They're going to take care of the rock, and they're going to run the ball hard. And we're going to get. And we just been real physical. That's been the main point. Been real physical at the point of attack. And just like I said, just getting downhill and really getting grimy when the situation when needed to.
Well, I know Wallace is really excited because you're an offensive line coach. Offensive line is what he played, and each week we get skill players, and we talk a lot of skill players, but Wallace finally has the big guy here to have fun with. So, Wallace, I'm going to let you take over, and y'all talk about the big dirties, as you say, down low sometimes.
Yeah, being an offensive lineman, you don't get all the notoriety, all of the acclaim that the running backs, receivers, quarterback gets. And with this group, it's probably you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's probably the most inexperienced group especially on the offense that you had returning this year. And I know talking to a lot of people before the season, that was the one question mark was, how the offensive line was going to play. And one thing Jeremy and I have talked about throughout the season is it seems like those guys have gelled a lot through the season, and they're playing better and better. And then that you do start seeing them dominate throughout games. What are some of the things that y'all really tried to work towards as the season's gone on to kind of get those guys to that point?
Again, like I said, most of that, honestly, started back in the spring, started back in March. When I was telling those guys when we come in for, we get a little classroom time, like, hey, man, guys, it's going to be all 5 or 6 or 7. right tackle can't always be right tackle, so everybody got to be willing to play any position up front. You know, and that's kind of how we was able to get those guys to grow more as a football player by learning just more than just right tackle, and learning more than just left guard. They're learning every position across the board. So when that time comes, again, increasing their football knowledge along the way. And then it's naturally made them better skilled players and better at their craft. And like I said, those guys, they've done a great job of trusting the system and trusting my rules and foundations I laid down for them. Because again, back in the spring, it's when I gave them those rules. I'm like, man, you know what? As an offensive lineman, defense, they're gonna try to do things to confuse you. They're gonna move. They're gonna stem. They're gonna try to do everything they can to get you off your game. But if you got a foundation, you got a base. It don't matter how they line up or how they move. We're gonna do what we do. You know, and that's the main thing. They trust the system, and they're really taking control of those rules that I gave them. And they just kind of went from there, man.
Right. We had Brian Luna on here with us last week, and he told us one of his things is he loves to get the pancake blocks. You know, and if you're a lineman, that's you love. You know, everybody talks about Zeke when he does his eat. That's kind of the lineman thing. Get those pancakes. You know, and just looking at it, we go out most times, and a lot of times defensive lines are bigger than our offensive linemen. You know, and our offensive line just seems to dominate and take control. I guess what my question is, and sorry I drew a blank, but what I'm trying to get to is, with those guys, they don't get all the acclaim, but we know that if there's not offensive linemen, you're not scoring touchdowns. You're not protecting the quarterback to throw touchdowns. So do you do anything special with those guys to, make sure they feel like, okay, I'm getting recognized? Or is it just a thing where they're good with being able to go in on Saturday and watch film and say, hey, I got 5 pancakes this game, and that's my thing?
That's the main thing with those guys. I try to every week I try to do like a little meal for them, like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I have a meal for them, and we watch film after practice. Instead of just going in there and just having the basic usual, hey, look, guys, clean up, let's go watch practice. I have a meal kind of laid out for them so they can kind of sit down and have build that camaraderie up, and just kind of build that chemistry together. And they just kind of sit down and joke around. And like I said, and it's just more relaxed, kind of a relaxed environment rather than just, hey, let's watch this film, let's play, let's clip, do this and that, So it's a different thing for them. So I kind of enjoy seeing them joke around and seeing them really, really, bond with each other in those types of situations.
Right, and that's one of the things that we've heard. Just about every one of the guys that's come on and the players that they said is that, they really play for their brothers and they consider themselves as brothers. And, being on the line, you have to be that close-knit because you're going to be shoulder to shoulder, like we say, butt cheek to butt cheek throughout the game. And just being able to see them work together and work as one, from where we saw at the beginning of the season where we could, you can kind of tell those early season jitters and early season faults. It's kind of solidified during the year. And, it's been impressive to see. So we want to say kudos to you as the line coach. Kudos to the rest of the coaching staff. As far as we always ask this question, about what as far as what we're going to get this week coming up. We haven't seen much of Sunnyvale. We've heard a little bit about them. I've heard that they've got some big guys, which is nothing new to us because last week, Jeremy and I said it, I think last week was probably the first week we went out there and said, man, I think overall we're bigger than the other guys on the other side. So and talking to Brian last week, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he told us, he plays like he is. So is that something you instill in your guys,
Of course, man. Like I said, if I could have them all built like Jacob Kyle, then shoot, man, we'll be in business for sure then. But that's the thing though. You got to work with what you got. And then I told those guys, man, look, we ain't we're not 6'8" and 6'5", but we 5'8" and stocky. You know what I'm saying? So we can use our leverage, use our power level. That's gonna be the main key to get movement on guys. Because we're pretty strong. I mean, not to say we're pretty strong and stout up front, but it's just the height and the power level. So we can keep that power level low. I mean, that's something that, again, those guys, it's an custom to them, and blocking whistle to whistle. I mean, starting back in August, I have him get on that big rusty red sled. You know, it don't do a whole lot of movement. You got to come off, you got to fire off, you got to run your feet for that thing to get moving. And from August all the way to to now December, November, I'm gonna have them doing the same thing, and that's kind of thing, especially when you go against a body who's tired. And eventually I said, man, look, those guys, they ain't gonna sit there and stay on the box the whole time. They're gonna have to reach for a tackle at some point. That's when we get our pancake blocks.
Right.
So that's why I kind of instill that ball get off and instill that physicality in this at the point of attack at that point. And those guys do a great job of just again trusting the system, trusting the technique. That I try to instill in them every day, and they do that job and they do it well, man. So I just again all credit to them, and perfecting their craft. At the end of the day.
Right. So, Jeremy, do you have anything else for Coach
No,
Kerr?
I just enjoy watching y'all. I know you're enjoying this one because I've got to talk to all the coaches that were in the skills situation. We got one more that I don't think he was expecting to get interviewed tonight, so we're going to put him on the hottest seat we've had all year long.
Yeah, he didn't get to prepare himself, but it's good that he obliged us by coming over and talking with us. So.
I don't think he had a choice.
Yeah, he had somebody pushing him over here, but we're going to get to talk to Coach Draper here for just a second, so we'll slide the mic around to him. Jeremy,
Coach,
you want to get it?
Last week we seen something throughout the year. Wiley and Jones has been able to break loose, and then the last few weeks Proctor had broke loose. But then last week they run a 3-4, and they had two linebackers keying on Proctor. And they were not going to let Proctor beat him. He broke out on a couple of pass plays. But how hard is that when you're dealing with a senior to say, hey, they're playing a different defense than what you've watched all year long? How hard is that to get across to them? Because I know you're usually up with us in the press box, but to get him to understand that, hey, they're keying on you, buddy.
Well, it's one of those things that, Jaden, he's a competitor, and he really wants to go ahead and put the team on his back and wants to go out there and really do his job at a high level. But at times he knows that he has to take care of football, and he sometimes has to take the back seat and let the other guys work. Sometimes he gets in trouble, but, most of the time, he goes ahead and does his part and distributes the ball where it needs to be. And, can't ask for anything else.
He's a heck of an athlete. We watched him grow up, and, he was always one of our top athletes. But I know sometimes as being as athletic as he is, he can get himself into a position that most athletes can't get into. So last week watching both the offense and the defense, the way Sunnyvale played y'all, They run a totally – Sunnyvale's this week. Bullard run a totally different set than what normally when you're on offense, you're reading your on a read option, you're reading the ends. But Bullard was reading on defense. They were reading Cooper. So, they weren't reading our ends at all. You could tell that quarterback would just look at Cooper, and whatever Cooper did, he was going the other way. And then on the other side, they had two linebackers on Jaden. So you wasn't expecting as a coaching staff, was y'all?
No, sir. We weren't necessarily going ahead and just expecting him to cue on Proctor that much, but we were able to make some adjustments and go from there.
One thing we've seen from Proctor throughout the year is just basically what y'all were talking about before, being such a good athlete as he is, you always feel like no situation is too bad for you to get out of. And so earlier in the season, we would see him trying to make a play and it resulting in sometimes some negative yardage and some losses. Throughout the season, we've talked about it. It seems like he's really settled into playing that role. And in those same situations, he started just throwing the ball away or, putting his shoulders down and getting what he could get and getting down without losing too many yards. Is that something that y'all really worked on? Because like Jeremy said, you come in with a senior that's there, and you said it earlier, he wants to put the team on his back. So every play he wants to make it be that big play. Is it something you've had to talk to him about, work on him with on, sometimes you just got to take what you can get and take the smaller loss than the bigger loss?
Yeah, that's really been a point of emphasis, just going ahead and just allowing the guys around him to work and getting them the ball where need be. It's one of those things that just comes with experience and maturity, but he's done a whole lot better job the later the season went on going ahead and just playing the role that he's in, and when he has the opportunity to make plays and do what he wants to do, then taking advantage of that.
And with Coach Kirsch here, I know you work with the quarterbacks. Coach Kirsch has the linemen, so it's like y'all basically tied to each other. So do y'all? So when y'all are preparing for the games, do y'all sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm seeing as far as Coach Kirsch, when you're watching film, this is what I'm seeing from their front. This is what I'm seeing them do. I've noticed these tails because I know a lot of times that can help the quarterback as far as what he's going to be able to do in certain situations and with the plays. Do you say, hey, I watched this week, and I see this person doing this. Maybe we can get our line, moving this way or taking care of business. Do y'all talk with each other and work with each other, before y'all get in the room with all of the coaches and stuff going over game plans?
Yes, we do our best to go ahead and get together as just position coaches on the offense. But really, when we come together, we're able to go ahead and sit down and come up with a great plan. Coach Woolard is always a great leader in there, and the rest of us are going ahead and doing our part, and we're able to really gel everything that we're seeing on film and come up with a good plan that will put our guys in the best situation possible.
Good deal.
So what this week, moving forward, the biggest thing Coach Sandoval has said all year long is 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. So now we're into the second round of playoffs. I've looked at some of Sunnyvale's stuff. How much different are they going to be than what Bullard run? Because from some of the stuff I've seen, it looked like they were a lot alike, except Sunnyvale liked to put the ball in the air maybe a little more.
Yeah, I think, like I said, both teams are actually almost kind of similar game plans. Like I said, again, Sunnyvale going to be more of a 4-3 kind of defense, and they're going to, again, they got a big boy in the middle. They're going to try to plug him out in a lot of different spots, so they're going to stunt him a lot. Again, I got a pretty decent middle linebacker. But the game plan with us, again, it don't change, man. We're gonna run the ball because we've been doing it all year long, man. We're gonna run the ball like we've been running, and again, everybody gonna do their job. So again, of course, offensive line, receivers gonna throw, quarterback gonna throw and catch. Receivers have been doing a great job, like they've been doing blocking. Because that's been another unsung story right there, is receiver blocking. So that kind of helped make my offensive line look that much better. Because again, you got guys who's everybody doing their job is gonna all come together at the end. Again, like I said, with Coach Stress 1-0, we have the biggest game of the year this year, and I said it every week because again, it's the next one. So
right.
That's how we're looking at it. We just gonna go do what we do.
Well, we sure have thanked y'all for being on here, and this is Coach's Show 2019 Black Cat Playoffs. Jeremy Sunday, Wallace High with Coach Draper and Coach Kirsch.
And we're going to thank Mrs. Draper for allowing you to come over and talk with us and take you away from her dinner. So we don't ever want to get in trouble.
She kind of pushed me towards it.
Right. We want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming over and being with us. And like we always say when we end, go Black Cats, and let's go 1-0 this week.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Appreciate
Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
You're listening to Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Part, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Whitman Life Insurance,
And we're here back here at Joe Fridays. We've had the players. We did the player show. We did the coaches, and now we're here to do the prediction show. Jeremy Sunday, Wallace High, Vance Rose, and Sandals here with us. He shows up about once every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Tells me he's been on vacation for 2 weeks. That's why he ain't been here.
Look, Freddie told Vance the wrong place that first week, and we made fun of him and talked about him. Dino came in, and he picked probably the upset in the state of Texas that week, and then we hadn't seen him again.
No,
he went to Vegas off that upset pick.
But we got our sheet's getting smaller and smaller here, guys. We're going to start with Wallace, and we'll go around with Vance and Dino. He ain't no Dion, but Dino. And then come to me, but we got Dawson visiting Mount Enterprise this week. Who you got going here?
Like I was telling y'all before, I didn't get to do much research on my picks this week.
Couldn't see from all them tears.
Man, we'll get to that later. But I am gonna go with Dawson in this one. I'm not sure what Mount Enterprise has. Dawson's been having a pretty good year, and they've been saying that it's their year over there, with the exception of Mart.
Well,
so
Dawson, they win this one, they get to meet Mart in the next round, I believe.
Yeah, and I think they'll get another district matchup. I ain't gonna say a revenge or a chance to beat them this time, because I don't think that's gonna happen. But I'm gonna say Dawson takes Mount Enterprise in this one, and I'm gonna put up a score of 27-21.
Vance, what you got rolling, Bubba?
I'm going to take Dawson 26-20 over Mount Enterprise.
I'm going to take Dawson 27-17.
Well, I'm going to be the lone upset here. I mean, a lot of these teams you're not going to hear from because it's not normal teams that we talk about each week. Some of them are from out of our district. But I believe Mount Enterprise is going to pull this one off 24-17. Next up, we got Melissa versus China Spring in a second-round playoff game. Wallace, will let you lead off there.
China Spring, they went into the playoffs a 3-7 team, and I get to keep up with them pretty close over there with some family members playing on that team. They pulled off a big one last week. I don't know much about Melissa. I know they usually have a pretty good team. But it's hard for me to go against China Spring.
China Spring upset the number one team in that district they played last week.
I think I'm gonna go with China Spring in this one. I'm gonna give them a 28-24 win in this one.
Vance, what you got, Bubba?
I'm gonna go with Melissa, 35-14 over China Springs.
I'm going with Melissa too, 30-21 over China Spring.
Well, I got a China Spring winning 35-34. Next, we got Stephenville playing Argyle.
Yeah, and that's going to be a pretty good game, I think. But right now, Argyle is the cream of the crop in Division I and 4A. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. They've been scoring some points this year. I'm going to go 45-28 Argyle over Stephenville.
I'm going to go Argyle 35-14 over Stephenville.
I'm going to go Argyle 55-20 over Stephenville.
And I got my clean sweep here. I got Argyle pulling this one off 45-24. Next up, we got the Detroit Pistons coming down to Texas. And I don't know if they'll be able to score enough points to keep up with Mart this week. But, no, Detroit, I looked that up because I was hoping they'd play on Thursday night because I wanted to go watch Mart. But Detroit and Mart are 3.5 hours
Yeah.
between each other. And but I just don't think they're going to be playing up in Denton, I believe.
That's what I would think, because
And
it's
so
Detroit's up Wichita Falls north area.
So who do you got between the Pistons and the Panthers here, Wallace?
Yeah, I'm not picking an upset on this one. I'm gonna roll with the Mart Panthers. I'm not sure what Detroit has. I didn't, like I said, I didn't get to review any of these before that. But just the way Mart plays, the way Mart scores, I'm gonna give Mart an edge in this one. I think it might be a little bit closer than it was last week for Mart. But I'm gonna still say that they probably put up 49 points, and so I'm gonna give them a 49-28 win.
I'm going to go with Mark, 35-0.
35.
More 60-14.
Well, I listened to that game last week. We were going to go to it, and they put the rain in it. And believe this or not, that score was 20-14 with 5 minutes left in the first quarter. And at the last play of the second quarter, Mart made it 62-14. And then Mart made it 81-14 at the end. But I think they had a couple of turnovers there early in Detroit, or not Detroit, but who Mart was playing scored, so that kept the game close. But I got Mart pulling this one out 68-35.
Yeah.
The next game is one of our favorites. It's six-man football. Avalon's really the only six-man that we have left around here that I know of, and they're going to be playing St. Joe. Wallace, where are you going with this one?
Man, I'm pulling for Avalon. We kept checking that score last week, and we looked up, and it was like an 8-6 game and
8-2 at
8-2 at halftime. I mean, I was just like, I don't know, maybe they got some bad weather and they just called it for a little while, because you're not used to seeing a low-scoring game like that in six-man. I think maybe Avalon gets back to scoring this week. I'm gonna pick them to win, and I'm gonna put it to be a 64-52 game.
Well, I got Avalon 64-20.
I got Avalon 28-7.
And I'm going to clean sweep it. I got Avalon pulling this one out 72-58. Now, the next game is a powerhouse from the old school and a powerhouse from the new school, and this is one of them games we talk about, Wallace. If the Black Cats weren't playing, actually the next 2-3, it looks, every game pretty much from here on out could be good. But it's going to be Salina's going to be playing with Vega on a neutral field. Where are you going to take the lead with this one, Wallace?
I'm rocking with the Vega Pirates. I know several of the guys over there playing and several of the coaches over there, and right now, they're rolling. They're the defending champions, and although I know Salina pretty much ran the state there in the
Bobcats,
in the 90s and stuff behind G.A. Moore. Right now, La Vega's one of those top programs in the state, and they're on a roll. They've been steamrolling. They had a couple losses early in the season, or one loss early in the season, and basically just to Argyle. Since then, they've gotten that motor running, and I think they're going to run over the Salina Bobcats this week, and I'm going to give La Vega a win 42-21.
I'm going to go with La Vega 35-21.
I'm going to go La Vega 42-30.
I'm going to clean sweep that one with La Vega 49-21 over Salina.
Oh, man.
The next one is going to be a powerhouse from around here. They're about the same distance from us, but it's going to be Franklin versus Whitney in a neutral site, which has got to be somewhere around here. Grosback or –
Yeah, all I can think, if it's not coming this way, it's got to be in Waco somewhere. But yeah, that's definitely one of those games. If you weren't watching the Black Cats that night, you'd make that trip to go watch those two teams, because I know that's going to be a good one. We've kind of tracked and kept up with these teams because they're around here. We've seen Franklin. We know about Whitney. Whitney's rolling. I'm going to go with Whitney in this one, and I'm going to go 28-21 Whitney.
I'm going to go with Whitney 28-24.
I'm going to go Whitney 37-24.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep with Whitney pulling this one out 35-21. The next game's another one we talk about every week. In this game, they're both about the same distance from us as well, and that's going to be Crockett's going to be playing Troy on a neutral field. both teams have been on a roll, and that's going to be speed against brute on this one. So, Wallace, take the lead on this one and take us where you're going.
Yeah, and just with the fact that we've kept up with these teams throughout the year, it just kind of gives me a little perspective on it. Troy's played teams that have had athletes and the speed that Crockett's going to bring out on the field, and they've been able to get wins against those teams. Crockett, they've played some teams that are going to chalk it up and run the ball at them the way Troy is going to do, but I think I'm going to give the nod to Troy because they've played some of those teams throughout the season and throughout their district and that tough district they're in over there. I'm going to give Troy the nod in this one, 28-27.
I'm going to take Crockett 35-28.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to take Crockett 31-27.
Well, I'm going to make it 2-2 because I'm taking Troy 35-28 to pull that one out.
No matter who we pick, we all think it's going to be a close, good game, right?
The next one is Grandview is going to be playing East Chambers, and Grandview,
yeah.
They're still upset they didn't get to go number one in their district. So, Wallace, take us away on that one.
And just like you said, they didn't get that one seed, and they're playing some in some of that competition that they would have liked to avoid. East Chambers is a pretty good program over there. But even though Grandview didn't go in as the one seed, they still have that number one pedigree. So I'm going to go the Zebras coming out on top, 35-27.
I got Grandview 35-14.
I got Grandview 34-10.
I got it 35-14. I'm on the same in the same boat as Vance. Next game is Alvarado versus Brownwood. Brownwood's been playing a lot of teams that's been in the West District or I say West, over in the Waco District with Vega and stuff. So, Wallace, where you got us going with this game?
Brownwood's had a great year this season. They've been top 10 in the state for pretty much the entire season. I got them coming out on top of Alvarado in this one, 21-17.
I got them coming out 28-21.
I got them Brownwood coming 28-14.
Vance has been looking at my numbers over here. He want to get on that winning team. I got Brownwood over Alvarado 28-21. Gentlemen, this next four is I looked up, and it was just a quick glance last night before I laid it down, but District 842A was the only district in the state of Texas that all four teams that went to district advanced. And that's saying something about the district that the Black Cats, Eagles, Salado Eagles, and Conley Cadets played in. Fairfield Eagles, Conley Cadets. So all four of our teams are still in it, and they're playing some tough games this week, but it's pretty nice to look up and say, you know what? We're in the state of Texas. We're the only ones that had that happen. And the first game we're looking at is going to be Conley here, Spring Hill versus Conley. Where you got that leading, Wallace?
I think Conley is going to come out on top in this one. We know they're strong. I don't know much about Spring Hill. I haven't gotten a look at much for them. But I got Conley coming out on top 35-21.
I got Conley coming out 28-0.
I got the Cadets 40-17.
And I got Conley pulling this one out 42-21. The next one we have is going to be Gilmer. We'll be playing the Fairfield Eagles at a neutral site. Wallace, take us away.
This is where I think we're going to start losing some of our district comrades. Gilmer's tough, solid program over there. They have a tradition over there as well. But I think they're going to those Buckeyes. I think they're the Buckeyes in Gilmer, right?
I believe so.
I think they're going to come out on top of the Fairfield Eagles 42-14.
I got Gilmer 28-14 over Fairfield.
I got Gilmer 49-30.
I got Gilmer 42-35. The one thing I will say about Fairfield is toward the end of the year they've played all close games, so I think they'll be able to keep it close, but I got Gilmer pulling it out in the end. The next game is like watching run against run, pretty much is all you can say. And we're going to have the Salado Eagles against Pleasant Grove, and I can tell you one thing, that's going to be one of them games you like to be calling because you'll be home by 9:30.
Right.
Lead us away with this one, Wallace.
Yeah, I think we might lose another one of our district mates in this one. Pleasant Grove, they're tough. They're number one team in the state. They're coming off of a state championship appearance last year. and I've been able to keep up with them. And when we've talked about having some size from some of the teams we've seen, but that Pleasant Grove team over there, they have some sure enough size and some horses out there, especially those two defensive ends they have, and that whole defensive front.
Well, their only loss this year is to Carthage.
Yeah, and just looking at it with the way we know Salado plays, they're going to make it tough for Salado. And so I think they're going to jump out and get a 35-7 win over Salado in this one.
I got Pleasant Grove winning 35-32.
I got Pleasant Grove winning 24-17.
And I got a close one as well, 35-28. I really wasn't expecting Salado to do what they did last week, but they put it on us, so I believe in them staying close. But the next one is to be the game that we'll be calling this week, and, of course, we'll always be calling the Mexia game. But we got Mexia is going to be playing Sunnyvale, which is 10-0, and Mejia's, 8-3 now? So, no, 11-0 and 8-3. So, Wallace, take us away in this Mexia Black Cat game that we're going to be playing.
You know that I'm never going to pick against the Black Cats in these situations. I do have Mexia coming out on top of this. Seen a little bit of Sunnyvale. Think that we can get after them and do some work and come out on top in this one. I got Mexia winning 31-28.
I got Mexia winning 28-14.
I got Mexia winning 35-24.
Well, the only way I'd pick against Mexia is if we'd kept score all year long and I had to have this one to win. I would pull it out, but I think the Black Cats are going to think they're having a special season. Talking to the boys, they're very down to earth and they're going one at a time. So I got Mexia pulling this one out 42-35. Now we're going to go to a couple of college games, a few college games, and then we have one NFL. But, Wallace, the one thing that happens toward the end of the year is I don't care what conference you're in, it's a big game, one after another toward the end of the year. And last week, well, hold on. We do have one more high school football game to talk about. I had a piece of paper put on here, and Freddie said that Grosback was going to beat somebody 52-0 this week.
And he literally put somebody.
And he said that game is the fourth round of the playoffs, and that Grosback next week will be playing for a championship. Okay. We at least have a stand-up comedian from Grosback. That's all I can say. But this next college game is Baylor's traveling to Austin to play the Longhorns down there in their stadium. Take it away, Wallace.
Yeah, and, I've had to take it all week from Jeremy, Freddie, and all of my other friends. You haven't heard from
me this week.
No, I heard from you Saturday, though.
But that was before the game.
You did send me a text. Freddie sent me a text Sunday morning and said that we can be friends again now. I've had several of my coworkers and things that are OU fans that have given me the business all week. My Bears did suffer their first loss on last week, but I think we're going to bounce back in this one. I got my Baylor Bears winning 35-27.
I got Texas winning 35-28.
I got Baylor winning 31-20.
Well, I looked. Baylor's got Texas this week and Kansas next week, and as long as they can win one of the last two, they get to see Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship. I've got Baylor pulling this one out 28-14. But I will tell you this, Wallace. I've always liked Baylor, but some of your fans must be first cousin with the Longhorn fans now because they got to acting so crazy this past week. I'm like, are you a Baylor fan or did you just convert over from a Longhorn fan? Because I was just like, they got really crazy, and I'm like, y'all been 9-0 one time, and that was a long time ago. So quits.
It wasn't a long time ago. It was a few years ago.
Well, Texas.
Texas.
It's been since Texas was good.
Texas hadn't done it in a while. I think we picked up a few that jumped ship there for a while, but I just like to give them a hard time. And
well, this next one is TCU's traveling to Norman this week to play under the big lights at Memorial Field. Where you got that one?
TCU's been playing some pretty good football the last couple of weeks, playing some good close games. Came up with an upset a few weeks ago. But Oklahoma's going to be back in Norman. They're coming off of a big comeback win against Baylor. So I think Oklahoma's going to pull this one out 42-28 over the Horned Frogs.
I got Oklahoma 35-14.
I got Oklahoma 37-21.
Yeah, that last week we got to watch two different Oklahoma teams, or I didn't. I went to bed at halftime. Friday night I had stayed up and helped some people and didn't get to go to bed till late Saturday morning. And, man, by halftime and Hurts just putting the ball on the 10-yard line and running off from it, I had just had all the Oklahoma football I'd wanted. And Andrew woke me up with about 2 minutes to go, like, Daddy, you got to watch this. And I was like, man, am I in a different lifetime? I would never have thought they'd came back.
Am I dreaming?
But I got Oklahoma pulling this one out 49-21, and it'll be good to see Oklahoma-Baylor again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, we got a Big Ten matchup coming. I don't think it's going to be much of a matchup, but it's Penn State will be traveling to Ohio State this week.
Yeah, they're both top 10 teams right now, but I think Ohio State's far and above the top team in that conference. I got Ohio State Buckeyes beating Penn State 45-31.
I got Ohio State 42-28.
I got Ohio State 28-17.
I got Ohio State beating the brakes off of them 45-14 because I'm telling you, Ohio State and LSU are the top two teams, and then it's everybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
Clemson hasn't played very well this year. And, I mean, you give Dabo a month to prepare, and he
Right.
might be good, but LSU and Ohio State has been deservedly the top two teams all week long. Now we get to a big game up north. The Cowboys are traveling to New England.
Yeah.
You sound sad over there, Wallace.
I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm going to go with my Cowboys. It's going to be a tough one. We know that the Patriots are 9-1. They're one of the top teams in the NFL. The Cowboys are traveling to Foxborough, which is going to be a tough task in itself. But I have Dallas coming out on top 27-24.
I got New England 35-21. Dallas is playing against a winning team again.
I got Dallas 31-28.
I got Dallas 52-0 if Grossback's in the playoffs this week. No, I actually have Dallas pulling this one off. I think that the Clapper is down to his last couple of games, and if he don't make the playoffs, he is going to be gone. So he's going to have to pull off a couple of upsets down the road, and I think this is going to be one of the first ones, and I've got Dallas pulling it out 28-27 on Saturday at 3:30 in Foxborough. They didn't look very good against Philadelphia last week, and I just think Dallas is a much more superior team than Philadelphia. Did I say Monday?
You said Saturday.
Saturday, I mean Sunday.
Sunday at 3:30.
Well, this is going to wrap up the predictions for second round of the playoffs, Black Cats 2019. From Jeremy Sunday, Wallace High, Vance Rose, and Dino Sandals instead of Dion. We'll see you next week back at the same Black Cat time. Wallace?
We will be on air this Friday night, bringing you the Black Cat action from Athens at Bruce Field with the Black Cats facing off against the Sunnyvale Pirates.
Yes.
So if you're not able to make the trip to Athens, tune in. Anyone that you know that isn't able to make that trip, tell them to tune in to Mexia Sports Network, and we will bring you that action live.
From Jeremy Sunday and Wallace High, Greer Time Media, Joe Fridays, we want to say it's another wrap, guys.
To Mexia Sports Network. Tonight's game is brought to you by Greer Time Media, Posey Napa Auto Part, Greer and Greer Mobile Detail, Mookie's Mesquite Patch Barbecue, Woodman Life Insurance, and Joe